is to increase competitiveness, introduce new and sustainable technologies, build on skills that will transform the employment rates of South Africa, and to transform the very essence of the RCTFL sector. Because as we know, this is a sector that traditionally was quite strong. We all believe that South Africa has the skills, and today we have our experts who will actually tell us how, as a team of South Africans and global participants, we will reach these goals. I myself, I'm very excited to hear from our guests. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our first guest speaker. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Eustace Mashimbe, the CEO of Proudly South African. Mr. Mashimbe is a qualified financial accountant who studied at the Technikon Northern Gauteng, which is now the Tshwane University of Technology, and the Technikon South Africa, now UNISA. He majored in financial accounting and corporate law and also studied towards his MBA with the Management College of South Africa, still to be completed. He is currently completing his studies towards his corporate governance qualification through the Chartered Secretaries Institute of South Africa. He has over 17 years experience in accounting and financial management in both public and private sectors, with Telkom, Edcon, and the Department of Trade and Industry, with more than 10 years of these at senior management level. Mr. Mashimbe has served on the board of the Business Place and is currently a director on the board of the South African Savings Institute, where he previously also held the position of Audit and Risk Committee Chairperson. He has previously fulfilled the role of CFO for a 10-year period, acting COO, and acting CEO of Proudly South African, and was appointed permanent CEO in December 2016. Mr. Mashimbe will be discussing with us insights into the Proudly South African campaign and the benefits associated with the Proudly South African membership. Without further ado, Mr. Eustace Mashimbe, I hand over the stage to you.
Okay, good morning, Stefan. Thank you very much. Good morning to all the participants, fellow panelists, and to all delegates who have graced us with your presence today, who have joined in, and looking forward to receiving all the information that we'll be sharing with you today. As introduced, my name is Eustace, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Proudly South African. I have a few slides to take you through, basically giving you a sense of who Proudly South African is. Stefan did touch on some of it, so I won't spend too much time on it. But the campaign is really built on the back of the fact that the country has three main challenges: inequality, unemployment, and poverty, and the biggest one being unemployment, with the numbers as we saw them at the end of Q3 of 2023, standing at a staggering 31.9%, with about 7.8 million of our people who should be in jobs actively looking for work but unable to find jobs. Another 3.2 million people are discouraged and have stopped looking. And if you look at the expanded definition, that takes into account also those who are not necessarily searching, and we don't have reasons for that. We're looking at about 11.7 million people who are out of jobs, who should be in jobs, and this is out of a population of 62 million people. And that's why industries like these that have the ability to absorb as many people as possible are important. I mean, if you look at the most affected, it's the youth that are unemployed, mostly unemployed, and as well as women, Black African women to be specific, who should be in jobs, who are not in jobs. And so an industry like this can absorb young people, can absorb women, it can absorb the unskilled, where they can then pick up skills as they go. And it's very important that we try and catch up with the rest of the world, because if you look at developed economies, at least 90% of the contributions to the GDP and to employment come from small businesses and fashion designers and seamstresses, and those people who run businesses in this industry are able to then drive up our number, which is then standing at as low as 45% currently, with a target of 90% by 2030. So we need to catch up. We need industries that are labor intensive like this one to start creating jobs. And so our mandate as Party South African is quite simple. We seek to influence the buying of locally made products. If there's anyone making a purchasing decision out there, we want them to choose a locally made product so that jobs can be created in the process. And this phenomenon of buying local is not unique to Party South African. It's a global phenomenon. We see it in developed economies, economies that are doing well, have buy local campaigns, the likes of Australia, the US, the UK, the Philippines, and even on the African continent, we've seen some of the countries start establishing their buy local campaigns. In fact, we've had study tours coming to South Africa from governments that want to set up buy local campaigns for their own countries. The United States is a good case study that can be looked at. I mean, if you consider the fact that as far back as 1933, they came up with legislation and an act. 1982 followed that up with another act, and in 2017 issued a Buy America Improvement Act. And even the current president, when he came into office, he continued from his predecessor. President Biden, within the first week of coming into office, signed and Buy American provisions, showing that these localization phenomenon, this buy local phenomenon, does work, especially for developed economies. We did conduct a study to try and one deal with naysayers who were saying localization does not work. It's probably suitable only for developed economies. And so we did a study to see if localization would work in South Africa if there was a 10% increase in investment in the manufacturing sector. Manufacturing taking into account all its subsectors that Stefan mentioned, like mining, agriculture, agro-processing, and the clothing and textile industry. All of them, the results were the same. If we were to just increase 10% increase in investing in manufacturing, which means 10% increase in buying and making that which is made in South Africa, you would see that there would be 13% a contribution to the GDP, a 10% increase in investment, and most importantly, 75,300 new jobs will be created. 11,500 in mining, 10,100 in agriculture. But overall, there will be an 8% increase in employment creation. And it's because of the value chains. Because to make any product, you need raw materials and components that come from other industries. And that's why you see that despite the jobs coming from manufacturing, because of the investment in manufacturing, other industries that are part of that multiplier, effect that we're looking at will also benefit. And so the benefits are well documented and well known. It includes the fact that if you're making any product in the country, if you're making clothing, if you're making leather products, if you're making footwear, if people walk through the doors of your business and buy the products that you're making, and you're employing people to help you make those products, you will retain those jobs. And if there's a need for you to produce more, you will create new job opportunities. And like I said earlier, those who don't currently are unemployed and don't have skills will then acquire much needed new skills and contribute to the development of the economy, to improving the living standards of those running those businesses, as well as those who are employed in those businesses. And we know that in our country, statisticians have told us and economists have told us that in some instances, a breadwinner who then gets a job in an industry like this takes care of 4, 5, in some instances, 6 other people. And so localization is important in that it will help pull a lot of our people out of the poverty that they find themselves in. So Party South African is a buy local campaign. What we focus on is buying that happens in the public sector. We educate, purchasing decision makers in the public sector as well as in the private sector on the importance of buying local. So it doesn't matter whether you're in government or you're running your own business or you work for a large corporate. Your purchasing decisions that you make daily can contribute to the growth of the economy. And so we focus on those 2 sectors. We also educate the masses, the general public, on the fact that when they buy a locally made product, they're creating jobs in South Africa. And equally, when they support what we are seeing, the advent of Shein and all of these guys who are sending, in some instances, low quality products from China, you're creating jobs in China. That's why China has 1.4 billion people living in that country, but the unemployment rate is always between 3 to 6%, never higher than that. And that is because we are buying that which they are making. And so we're creating jobs in that country. What we then do as Party South African as the 4th focus area is we promote accessibility of locally made products and services. We make it easy for consumers, for the private sector, for the public sector, for anyone who wants to buy local to easily find those products. And I'll show you some of the examples. And a lot of you and some of you and most of you, I would assume, have seen the Party South African logo before. And this is just to give you a sense of what it stands for. The logo is made up of the colors of the flag of the Republic of South Africa, instantly telling you that the product you're about to buy is one made in South Africa, that it contains local content, that as best as possible, the raw material required to make that product were sourced in South Africa. In instances where we do not have those raw materials, we allow our companies to import them, our members to import them. But the transformation of that raw material into the final product must happen within the borders of South Africa. So jobs must be created here. And so in this industry, things like zips and fabrics and those things must be bought from South Africa. And there's a cotton cluster that has worked hard to ensure that we grow the levels of availability of cotton in the country. And so initiatives like that must be supported. And so our members have to ensure that they make products in South Africa. They have to ensure that the products are of a higher quality nature and that they can satisfy the need for which they are bought. We are competing, for example, like I said, with all of these guys who are bringing product from outside of the country, but is the quality at the level that is wanted? Is the quality at the level that is expected? Members of Polisav can adhere to high quality standards. And so if you come across a product that carries the Polisav logo, you must know that we have vetted them. We have vetted their production processes. We have vetted the quality of their material and everything else that they utilize by way of raw materials and components to ensure that the product that will be taken to market is of a high quality nature. Companies that affiliate with us also help us preserve the environment. They dispose of their waste responsibly. They reuse and recycle material where possible, and they just basically help us reduce the carbon footprint. And lastly, we know in this industry, especially in East Asia and those parts of the world, that there are instances where there are labor practices that are questionable, and that's why they can keep their prices as low as they are, because they don't treat their workers fairly. In our instance, members of Polisav can comply with the labor legislation of South Africa. They must treat their workers fairly. And so if you think of a SMME support ecosystem or a business support ecosystem, as a business person, you need access to all of these things. Business people need access to funding, to information that can help them grow their businesses and start their businesses. They need ways in which they can be assisted to register their IPs and protect their trademarks. They need other non-financial support. They need to be helped to drive productivity. But the most important is they need access to markets. They need people to buy what they are producing. And that is where Polisav comes in. Our role, if you think of a typical retail value chain, and a retail value chain can be a big retailer selling clothing and textile, footwear and leather products. It can be a small fashion designer that runs their own retail, whether online or physical. They will produce a product as a manufacturer, but what they need is for consumers to buy those products. And so the role of Polisav is to stimulate demand for locally made products by telling the message over and over again. And so I'm going to give you, in the last couple of minutes that I have, examples of how we have supported this industry by driving up demand. We have set up campaigns like this, where in the past we have said, what does your wardrobe really look like? Where are the items and the garments and the footwear that you're wearing coming from? This is what we have done in partnering with retailers, where we've asked them to use the logo on products that they have and they carry in their stores. For those who have online stores, these are members of Polisav that I'm showcasing. The TFG together with his members have products that are made in South Africa, and next to the garment that is made in South Africa, you have the proudly South African logo. So it's easy for the consumer to tell which product is made in South Africa. These are some of the campaigns that we have jointly run with some of the retailers who make products in South Africa. As part of the master plan, they have all increased their levels of local content. So you are still buying the same garment as a consumer. The difference is that that garment is not longer made in Bangladesh and in China and in Taiwan and all of those countries, but the garment is made in Cape Town or KZN or in Johannesburg, but basically in South Africa. You're still buying the same brand from all of these stores, but the difference is that it's made in South Africa. So just some of the examples where the likes of Mr. Price, who are members of Polisav as well, have started, producing textiles, etc., as part of that master plan. And I know Dr. J will talk to some of that later. But this is how, as a consumer, you can then easily tell which product is made in South Africa. If you walk physically into the store, the hanging or swinging tag tells you instantly, that the product that carries the Polisav logo is made in South Africa. But if you buy online, that's what you will see. Some of the pre-ad campaigns that we've ran in the past, where we've said, Swenka local, dress up wearing local, we have, run campaigns where we said, are you wearing local, Mzansi? wear local to create jobs. These are some of the e-cards that in the past we've put out on all our social media platforms. We've partnered with Wear South Africa as well as SAC2, which is the Clothing and Textile Workers Union, to run campaigns to support CMTs and clothing manufacturers in the Western Cape. These are some of the e-cards that we've put out. We even come up with activations that are targeted at this industry, and the local fashion policy is one of them. During August to November 2022, as well as August to November 2023, we went on a social media drive where we said to consumers, take the best pick of yourself, wearing something that is made locally. And these are some of the judges we've used in the past, will then, be able to then choose who they think wore local best. And the prizes include you winning up to 20,000 rands, of fashion made in South Africa from some of your favorite designers. These are some of the people who were chosen by the judges. All that you see on screen are images of people who've posted themselves wearing local, and these are the winners from the previous year's competition, including the runner-up. So you can dress it up whichever way you want, as long as it's made in South Africa, as long as we can see the label, and this way we support locally made products and the buying thereof. At the Buy Local Summit and Expo, which is our flagship, we showcased all of these companies that you see listed on the screen, ranging from Ascend, Chipa, Funo, Times 10, Coops, Carlo, Ledicana, Stadio, our friends who are here with us today, that which is made by some of their students, SBKs, Rubicon, Pulse Home. So all of them were able to showcase their products. And what we do as Proudly South African is we invite buyers to come into the expo, to walk the floors, to find products that they can then include on their retail shelves. And we also have a strategy where we assist our companies to list with online stores that we partner with at no cost to them, and we carry that cost. In May 2023, we hosted a business forum in partnership with Stadio. And, the idea was to engage the students and to ensure that we try and capacitate those who are in the industry, so giving them information that can help them. We partnered with the Free State government, who has a retail program where they find designers in the province. And the idea is that the buyers who are looking for designers or retailers who then send their buyers and their head designers to come and look for designers that they can bring on board that can then design for some of their retail stores. And that is the idea of the program. We had a designer workshop, which was about helping designers know how to take their products to retail. And that's why we called the program Journey to Retail. For the Feather Awards, we challenged all the guests who are attending the Feather Awards to wear local. We set up what you see by way of a pink carpet for all our guests to walk through that carpet and show us the label, tell us that the product is made locally. That way, we're able to get a lot of money spent with local designers. We did the same thing with the Summer Awards. We asked people to come to the summers wearing locally, and we had a red carpet where we then engaged with those attending the awards to see if they were wearing local. We did the same thing with the State of the Nation address for SONA a week ago. We partnered with GCIS and Parliament itself, and every single guest and parliamentarian and minister and cabinet member was asked to wear locally. And we were confident, based on how many of them were showing us, the labels, or were telling us which designer they bought from. Small seamstresses, small fashion designers, some retailers, but mostly designers. We were pleased with the fact that way we knew we took away a lot of spend for the diamond walk at Sandton or the platinum walk in KZN. All that money that would have been spent and is normally spent with all of those stores, normally when there's SONA, did not go to them, but went to designers. And that's what we do as Proudly South African. And the question we were asking on the SONA red carpet was, are you wearing local? And these are the local designers who were fashion police, were on the carpet at SONA, were checking the labels, were talking to the guests to see who they bought from, and if they supported a local designer and a local retailer. And we partnered with Stadio to host the annual fashion show. This is how the images looked, and it was a way of making sure that we expose that which is locally made. We ran a campaign called Back to School over the January to Feb period, where we were showcasing those items that come from this industry that are locally made. And we have a lot of members making all of these products. This is how the campaign looks. We do zoom in, we show consumers which store they must buy from, which product they must look for, which retailer carries Proudly South African made products, and we cast a spotlight on those back-to-school items, shoes, clothes, etc., that are made in South Africa. For the festive season, we roll out campaigns that basically zoom into the different retailers, different designers that you can buy from when looking for your Christmas attire, when looking for what you want to give by way of gifts during that period. These are just some of the content that we're putting out there. We ran a huge digital campaign. We invested a lot of money, that digital campaign, where ads would pop up on all your favorite social media platforms when you are scrolling, and it would show you this is what you should be buying for the festive season. We were in malls during that period, and we pushed the back to school campaign because we know people go to malls to look for back to school items for festive season and Christmas clothing. And that's what we did, was to show them, as you're walking through the malls, as you go into your favorite store, please find a product that is made in South Africa. This is just an example of a campaign that we put out on social media to expose the members of Proudly South African in this industry that people could buy from during the festive season. Because the question is always, but who is making locally made products? So indulge me, 30 seconds of an ad campaign that we put out during the festive season over the last 2 years that shows you who makes products in South Africa. These are just some of the stuff that we've been putting out. The question will come, Program Director, I preempted that people will ask, if you want to become a member and participate in campaigns like that, what do you need to do? You need to join, apply for membership. We take you through a vetting process where we check for compliance with the 4 key criteria, whether the product is made in South Africa, whether it's of a quality nature, you comply with the labor legislation of the country, and you help us preserve the environment. And then there's a fee applicable once we are done with the vetting process. It's not expensive. Perception out there is that it's expensive. It's not. It's 500 rands for companies with a turnover less than 5 million rands. And the most that big retailers and corporates pay to us is 100,000 rands. But that is for companies with a turnover of 100 million rands and more. And
There's a voice.
as I conclude, Program Director, I know I'm out of time. I'm going to, quote the president and say, the president has said we call on every South African to contribute to our recovery effort by choosing to buy locally made goods and support local businesses. This is one way that each and every one of us can contribute to rebuilding and get us into the mode of a new economy. Locally made goods are not only lekker, they're also about creating jobs in our own country. And I thought that was a good way to sign off, as an appeal to say, let's all buy local to help create jobs. If you want to become a member of Proudly South African, follow us on all our social media platforms at Proudly SA on X or Twitter, as it was known before. Proudly South African on Facebook, Proudly SA on Instagram, proudlysa.co.za. You will find forms that you can complete for you to take up membership. Write to us on email, info@proudlysa.co.za, or contact us 0113273478. Thank you very much, Program Director. That's my presentation for today, and I appreciate the opportunity given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Eustace. That is an absolutely beautiful presentation. Appreciate that South African is hard work, advocate local. As Eustace has said, the social handles are in the chat, so please social media to engage with Proudly South African. You did also mention one thing that was interesting to me was the development of the value supply chain. So I know that, for instance, there is a mechanism from the IDC, the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa, to actually support capital investments in the RCTFL industries, achieving a balance of 70% of government investment or public sector investment and 30% of private sector investment. This is to improve machinery, processes improvement, support with strategy, and actually building local supply chains. So we really do hope that the commitment made by in the 2030 master plan is driven and actually monitored, because, as you say, it will result in better results for everyone. Thank you so much, Eustace. Next, I'm going to introduce a very special speaker, Mr. Jimmy Ferrandinos. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Linen Drawer. So Jimmy has an astounding 45 years of textile manufacturing experience and 30 years of experience in the technical production aspects of manufacturing textiles and fabrics in Pretoria and Nepal. Jimmy founded Linen Drawer in 2005 to manufacture bed linen for the home textiles industry with 2 employees, and now he has more than 40 employees. Linen Drawer are the main supplier of specialized bed linen and services to the hospitality, decor, and retail industries. So we would like to give Jimmy the floor just to speak to us about the importance of manufacturing locally and rely on locally manufactured textile products. He would also like to speak about how being a proudly South African member has shaped his outlook on localization and has grown the Linen Drawer. So without further ado, I'd like to hand the stage to Mr. Jimmy Ferrandinos.
Thank you very much, Stefan. That was an amazing introduction. I was wondering if you were talking about myself at one stage. So I will be sharing my screen. Thank you very much, Stefan. So the topic that I'll be talking on is how being a proudly South African member and being part of textile associations can boost your textile business. Our business is a relatively small one in the industry. So my presentation is going to be primarily aimed at the startups, those people in the audience that are looking at starting up businesses, those of you with small businesses that are looking at growing your businesses in the clothing and textile sector. So that's going to be my focus, sharing with you our experience in terms of what we went through over the years. I'll start off by saying who we are. So Linen Drawer is a manufacturer of bed linen. Whereas we call ourselves a boutique manufacturer because it's a much fancier name than a small manufacturer. We are a boutique manufacturer, much smaller than people like Roma Texera, who will be talking a little bit later. As Stefan mentioned, we were established in 2005. Our factory is based in Paarl in the winelands in the Western Cape. And what better place would you want to start up a textile business in amongst all these wine farms? We supply bed, bath, and table linen. We do manufacture our own bed linen and table linen, but at the same time, we also source other products that we are either not capable of or don't have the resources to. We source those products from other local manufacturers. I'll go into a little bit more detail with that a little bit later. We supply into the hospitality and decor industries primarily, and a little bit into the retail industry. So fairly evenly split over the hospitality and the decor industry. And we supply to national and international clients. We, as Stefan mentioned, we have evolved our business from literally 2 employees to over 40 at this point in time, with 10 sales agents covering our sales in 6 countries plus South Africa. So we actually export to 6 other countries. Let's talk a little bit about our story. I'm not too sure, or I hope that many of you, especially the startups, have watched a YouTube video or even read the book by a guy called Simon Sinek. So Simon talks about the why of any business, and the why equates to the story. In the case of our story at Linen Drawer, our main focus is on sleeping comfort. Do you sleep comfortably? But that's what we ask ourselves. That's what we ask our customers. Do you sleep comfortably? Because we believe that everyone should benefit from a good night's sleep. And our story really started up many years ago. I did a lot of traveling on business and also for private reasons as well, and stayed in many hotels around the world, what I consider to be good quality hotels. And I would come out of a sleep. I would come out in the morning, and in some cases I would have had a wonderful sleep. In other cases, had a very restless sleep, woke up in the morning tired, certainly not full of energy. And I asked myself, why is it that we have this experience? And what are the factors that impact a good quality sleep? So that was the main reason why we started our business. It was all about, that was our story per se. And to coin Simon Sinek's words, that is our why. And from that, we have resulted in a number of primary values in our business that drive every single decision in our business. So the why is almost your lighthouse, and then we use these primary values in our business to make sure that everything that we do does fall into our story or into our why. So we stand for sustainable natural fibers wherever possible. That is very important for us. We want to make sure that wherever possible that we are environmentally sustainable, that we use products that are environmentally sustainable. Quality and longevity of our products is very important, and that's one of the differentiating factors in our business when we compare with imports into this country, is the quality of the product and how long it lasts. We have very, very high specifications for our raw materials. We do a lot of testing of our raw materials. We do a lot of testing of our finished products before we release those into the marketplace, because we want to make sure that our products are branded, in inverted commas, as good quality products. Sleeping comfort, very important factor, very important value in our business. As I mentioned earlier, that's our story. But I'm going to unpack that slightly by saying that when it comes to sleeping comfort, the role of natural fibers in that is very, very, very big. I'm going to use an analogy so that you can understand. Yesterday in Paarl, it was 39 degrees centigrade. I was wearing a cotton shirt. My cotton shirt, the fiber, the natural fiber that is breathable and absorbs moisture, absorbed my perspiration, and it evaporated that into the air around me, keeping me cool and dry, as opposed to hot and clammy. And that's a big factor when it comes to bed linen, is one should use, as far as possible, products that are going to be breathable, that are going to absorb your perspiration to keep you cool and dry, especially in our climates. And then lastly, an area that is probably the second biggest driver in our business is good laundry techniques. There is no point in providing products that are excellent products from a quality perspective that can last 7, 8, 9 years in the hospitality industry when they go into a laundry. Let's talk about the hospitality industry. They go into a laundry and they are destroyed because the staff in the laundry do not know how to deal with stains, do not know how to deal with natural fibers, do not know how to deal with the products that they are washing. And with that, we give a lot of advice into the industry. We go into laundries, we explain to the laundry staff exactly how they need to deal with the products. We give them techniques on how to remove stains, because at the end of the day, we want that bed linen that we supply into their industry to last. Again, a major differentiator when it comes to imported products. So our place in the market, we are a small business, as I've said earlier, a boutique manufacturer. We cannot compete on price and volumes with many of our competitors, with many of the other manufacturers in the market, purely because of our size. And we focus on an area of the market that we can work with. We customize, we make bespoke products. We literally do not have a minimum order quantity, or rather we do, it's 1 unit in our factory. And by doing that, we attract customers that want that uniqueness in product. To give you an idea, we manufacture bed linen for the yachting industry, where those mattresses are literally different shapes, different sizes to anything that is out in the marketplace, anything that you can buy from the retail shops. And we will customize a fitted sheet that fits like a glove on that mattress. And our minimum order quantity is 1. We attract top-end niche clients who want good quality products, personalized service. They don't want to know that the bed linen that they are buying is available to 100,000 other people in the country. They want to have something that is uniquely theirs, that matches the decor in their room in many cases, that may have their own personalized logos that they want embroidered on the product. And that is the market area that we focus on. We focus on our customers' needs. We have to take into account our manufacturing capabilities. That is obviously very important, but we focus on our customers' needs. Whatever they want, that is what we focus our attention on trying to meet their requirements. We provide technical support and decision making, especially when it comes to the hospitality industry. We all want the highest thread count possible. We all want the 1,000th thread count or the 600 thread count product, but it may not be suitable for our establishment. In the case of the hospitality industry, it may not suit us from a cost perspective. Our wallets, it may not suit our wallets and our spending power. So we give technical advice in terms of what one should purchase. And we also give the after-sales service, as I mentioned earlier, in that we give technical advice into the laundries to help them to deal with the stains that invariably we all do. A key measure in our business, we measure many factors in our business. A key measure in our business is on time and in full. That is what OTIF stands for. And we are always above a 98% on time and in full level. Means that 98% of our orders to our customers are on time and in full. We have many months where we actually achieve 99.5%. So that is how customer focused we are as a business. We associate, and this is really important for all of you out there who are small businesses and wanting growth, and who are startups or thinking of starting up in the clothing and textile sector. You need to leverage whatever is happening around you. And in our case, we associate ourselves with brands like Proudly South African for the reasons that Eustace explained earlier. I'm not going to go into that. He's given a much more comprehensive explanation of how you can benefit by being a member of Proudly SA, how you can leverage your own brand with the Proudly SA brand. It provides you credibility. And we in our business, our logo, or rather the Proudly SA logo, is prominently displayed in our showroom, on our website, and on our products that we sell into the industry. So leveraging is very, very important for small businesses. You can also leverage with in our case, we leverage with Westgrow. So that would be regional associations in your area, local chambers of commerce. It gives you a couple of aspects. It gives you a platform for networking. It gives you a platform for marketing. And in some cases, also gives you a platform where you can source funding for your business. Any business that is growing requires funding, and many of these associations will provide that funding as well. The last thing that I wanted to chat about, it is really important to collaborate with your industry peers and your other industry associations. As small businesses, you really have little, probably, maybe not in all cases, you may feel that you're an island on your own. Don't be sort of on your own. You've got to deal with others in your industry, even if they are bigger organizations. You can certainly leverage what they are doing. For example, in our case, we source a variety of products from other local manufacturers. We do not and cannot and do not want to be able to produce everything in-house. Our expertise, we focus on that. We identify what our expertise is. We focus on that. And at the same time, we source other products to supplement our range from other manufacturers and industry leaders who are experts in their own field. We source funding from a number of different organizations. The DTI, Dr. J will be talking about that in a lot more detail. CEDA, IDC, etc. There is a lot of support for your businesses out there, and certainly use that as much as you can. Source training. We source our training from our CETA, from TVET, and other training institutions, because the training of your staff is really critical in the growth of your businesses. And also, wherever possible, wherever necessary, you may find that those associations, those institutions are not going to be able to provide training that specifically matches your needs. Because we have such a small manufacturing operation, we find that we need to do some in-house training as well. And don't be afraid of that. Whatever training you can give your employees and your staff will benefit you in the long run, and will benefit your staff at the same time. We work very closely with the Home Tex Association, Home Textile Manufacturers Association, and we work closely with that association for the benefit of our members and also for our own benefit. If you work with your association for the benefit of your association, your business will also benefit from that at the same time. So those were just a couple of pointers that I wanted to cover with you. For those of you specifically who are small businesses, specifically who are looking at starting up businesses in the clothing and textile sector. So I'm looking forward to receiving some questions from you later on.
Thank you, Jimmy. That was fantastic. Thank you for introducing us to more of your business. Here are a few key things I took away from that. And what really struck me was that you say that you do not compete on prices and volumes. So you obviously differentiate based on quality. And I think by choosing this path, maybe you serve as a template for other SMMEs to medium to larger companies, and how their strategy can actually adopt in this landscape by differentiating based on brand and quality. Also, the fact of sustainability, quality, the customer centricity, I think is fabulous. Collaboration and training and development. I think these are key pillars for any business developing in the local landscape and in the CRTFL industry. So I'm very impressed, and I think that many businesses can follow this example. So speaking of training and development, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Before I do, just a quick reminder that we will have a Q&A session at the end, a live Q&A session where you can pose your question to the speakers. In the meantime, if you have questions that you would like answered, please pop them in the chat. So I'd like to introduce Marina Steenekamp. Marina Steenekamp is the head of school at Stadio School of Fashion. Marina Steenekamp is a leader in the realm of fashion education, currently serving as the head of school for Stadio School of Fashion. Her academic journey commenced with a study of film at the University of Pretoria, laying the foundation for a deep appreciation of visual arts and storytelling. Continuing her pursuit of knowledge, Morena furthered her studies at WITS, where she honed her skills and developed a keen understanding of the intricate relationship between academia and the arts. Since 2016, Morena has been an integral part of the fashion education landscape, initially joining then LISOF, now Stadia School of Fashion. As the head of school, Morena Senekam continues to inspire and shape the next generation of fashion professionals, fostering innovation, creativity, and a deep appreciation for the unique cultural tapestry of South Africa. And then finally, I would just like to contribute and say that seeing all the young, creative, young designers and buyers and merchandise planners coming from the school, I'm very happy to say that the Stadia School of Fashion really is a leader in fashion education in South Africa. Morena's topic, she's just going to be talking about the 2024 curricula in some of our programs. So with that, I'd like to hand the stage to Morena Senekam.
Thank you, Stefan. Okay, so that was a lovely introduction, and also I'm very proud to represent the Stadia School of Fashion. Obviously, coming from a notorious and very conservative mindset from South Africans, where the idea of fashion education seems to be more arty, something more niche, and there is a definite need for us also to actually speak about this 2030 master plan, the idea that these practitioners have got a space within the South African community to not only showcase their talents, but to also make a living and contribute to the greater economy of South Africa. So I will be discussing our programs, what we offer, and how it links to industry. So obviously for us at Stadia School of Fashion, the idea is not to have a nice bespoke qualification that you can brag with friends over coffee to say that you studied fashion and you have got a very eccentric or creative personality. For us, it's very much the focus of successes in terms of employment, whether or not our students can exit with a qualification that is also testament to their skills, the way they've been taught, and to be able to hit the floor running when they enter certain industry sectors within, well, we speak about it as fashion, but we group it basically into four sectors. The one is your manufacturing, the textiles. The other one is the creativity, the design component that goes in with garments and patterns. And the third one then would be the production side, where it will go to CMTs. And the fourth would be your retailer, your marketing. So we group that as our overall framework in which we produce our programs. So just a bit of background on Stadia School of Fashion. Initially, we were called LISOF. LISOF was one of the first fashion education institutions. It was then later sold, I think it was about 2020, 2021, where it became part of the Stadia family. So this makes us one of the JSE listed companies. This ensures the quality of our academic product, but also gives students a chance to move between certain disciplines, for instance, from fashion to commerce, to management, to administration. So there's a whole scope for them in which they can vertically and horizontally articulate. So basically, we came to a challenge post-COVID, in which we realized that a lot of things are changing, and we had this whole idea of the art of change, that fashion speaks to the art of change, where we need to embrace certain things that is evidently changing, some for the good, some maybe not for so good. But overall, our experiences were that fashion is in essence blooming. The industry is blooming, and there is a definite need, especially when we look at the 2030 master plan, to go back and to relook at an industry that contributes so much to the GDP, to actually make sure that when we allow our students to graduate, that they can go in and contribute to this. So we work on the ethos, and you will see this as I go through the program offerings, is that it is basically centered around knowing, doing, and being. So knowing is the skill set that we provide the students in terms of knowledge, knowing how to differentiate between textiles, knowing what is a good design and a poor design. The doing is the actual application, putting your knowledge to your hands and actually making something out of it. That's the application. But the third one that at Stadia School of Fashion we really strive for, which I do think has got a major impact, is the being. And that is it's almost like a very personalized view where you become the fashion practitioner, where everything you see is based and grouped within aesthetic pleasure. And it is absolutely there, in which you can see the fact that even though we're talking about industries related to third industrial revolution, fourth and fifth, there's always clothes and there will always be clothes and we will always need to wear something. I stand to be corrected, but even when we plug into something like the metaverse or into the Apple Pro Vision, we still need to actually physically wear clothes. And for that, we will be secure of future industries. The big focus for us is focusing on supporting local. So now I'm going to speak about our curriculum offering. So in a nutshell, we cater from NQF5 right until NQF8. So NQF5 is your higher certificate. These are students that exit their matric where they don't have access to degree qualifications. So here, this acts as someone that can go into a qualification in the higher education space. They can exit with a vocational skill. So they can go in and work with seamstresses, work in design studios, and they can do the practical task. Then we've got our NQF6, which is our diploma. This is also more vocational, your practitioners. This is specifically focused in the clothing manufacturing or clothing production, as we call it. Then our degrees becomes more focused on either your critical thinking or commercial scope. And then we end off with your NQF8, which is your honors degree, which is a first postgraduate qualification in South Africa. So the first one that I want to talk about is our high certificate in fashion, which has got the design elective. So in here, in this program, and you can see the pictures there from their collaborative range during the 2023 fashion show. These students usually enter without having touched a sewing machine, without understanding basic patterns or textiles. They've just got this aspirational dream to be part of this industry because, to be honest, all our qualifications and all our students do have that aspirational part within them. We call it creativity, we call it part of the being, but that is usually the big driving force for them to really go and hone these skills. So you will see within the module allocation, they do their 3 core modules that you'll see repeated through everything, which is your creative design, where you actually create the design, then you create the pattern from it, and then you go into garment construction from there. So this allows these students to actually get their hands on the full 3-dimensional space of creating a garment. You can see the supporting modules there in terms of computers. You've got your textiles, because you cannot actually design if you do not appreciate or understand your textiles. Trends and visual merchandising. Visual merchandising, also through our continuous conversations with industry, is proven to be one of the more important fields also for any person in the fashion space that has got a visual eye to go and expand their skill set. The great thing about this is that the skills are transferable. So as you move from HC to diploma to degree to honors, the skills that you attain becomes transferable and speak to our definite needs within the greater society. Then 2024 is the first time we are launching this program. This is the higher certificate in fashion styling. So obviously also through regular engagements with industry and looking at local and international trends, we can see the importance of the up-and-coming stylist. So in here, students will focus on digital photography, so styling for a digital photo shoot. Obviously fashion, everything that has got that very textured feel, has got the need to have a nice visual to accompany it. We also do fashion communication and design, which is your CAD designs, looking at how you design and plan layouts on using technology. Makeup, obviously makeup within the fashion space is also a very important mark. And within our discipline of media, we do have a very, very well-functioned makeup section. We usually work with Graftobian and MAC, and they support our local fashion show as well. Obviously styling, the big one there, styling for photo shoots, styling for editorials, styling for individual clients, styling for major retailers, styling for visual merchandising. All of this is incorporated in the high certificate in fashion styling program. Then we move into our NQF6, which is our diploma, which is in the 2nd year. So last year we had our first year intake. This year we've got our first 2nd year, and next year we will see the 3rd year. So this is the program that focuses more on the production side of it, that speaks to these students that come in that might not want to go into the very high conceptualization of a design, but will want to work with a vocational, still creating fashion designs and illustrations, but go into a more production side. You can see also from here, the apparel design, you've got your garments and your patterns that run through. So this is just a different version of it. Very important in the diplomas, you'll see in some of our others, is we also focus very much on the supply chain. So there in the 3rd year, you can see the supply chain coming into play. it is important for our students to understand how to source locally and how to support local supply chains, because we do want to try and create the idea of the fashion, we call it the fashion ecosystem, where everything can, or most of it can be done locally in order to support job creation. For us, it's all about, can we create jobs for our students? Can they go out with these skills? Can they go and make an impact into the world? Then from there, we move into our BA in fashion. So this is our flagship qualification. It's got 3 different electives: design, media, and buying. So the design students specifically focus on the more creative space of designing. So they take it from design concept to production. And then through the years, first year, they do a collective range as part of the fashion show, where they work, where we give them the fabrics and the theme. Second year, they work collaboratively. And in last year, as well as this year, we work very much on sustainability to teach the ethical and responsible way of designing. So in our second year ranges, they usually do upcycling, where they work with brands like Levi's and Close to Good, and they upcycle garments to ensure that we get that full idea of a very sustainable or circular economy as well that feeds through this industry. And then third year, they go on to present their own individual designs. Here, students can decide whether they're going to go for functional or whether they want to go for more aspirational. So you will have functional, where we've had a collection last year where the actual garments could transform into sleeping bags or little tents. That shows the functionality that they actually hone on. Others use cultural memory, so they actually use a narrative from their own cultural backgrounds to relay how fashion would look within specific cultural groups. Media, very much focusing on the media space. So there in this program, they focus on makeup. They focus very much on photography up until third year, where they do a wonderful session where they do editorials and they create cover shoots in the same space as you would find in your glossy fashion magazines. They also participate in your basic media components, broadcasting, public relations, and they also create a fashion film at the third year. And also you will see running through everything as we work with WGSN, in which they work with trends. Then the third elective is the buying elective. In here, we work with potential buyers. These students also learn the fundamentals of fashion. So you'll see they do styling. They still continue with their fashion theory. They've got their buying and merchandising, as well as their merchandising, costing, and planning modules, in which they learn how to work as a buyer. Also, visual communication and retail, your visual merchandising is prominent within this qualification. Important to note through up until this point is that we work very much in a practical, hands-on, work-related simulation. So we work directly with industry to actually give us endorsed assessment briefs. So when we present a brief and they have to go through a buying plan or capsule buying, they actually mimic the world of work. We worked with Mr. Price, we've worked with We Are Egg, continuously through local brands to help these students to actually mimic and simulate the real world of work. So no sit-down exams, no going to that old way of doing and testing knowledge recall. For us, just very much more on the doing, as well as honing in on the being of the future practitioner. Okay, then our bespoke qualification. So obviously we see the importance of understanding how fashion not only speaks to your design, your creativity in the media spaces, etc., but it also speaks very much to the retail sector. So we've got a Bachelor of Commerce, your old BComs, in fashion. In here, we blend your traditional commerce modules with your more fashion-related modules. So these students have got the best of both worlds in essence. They will do their basic economics, their accounting, they will do company law, but they would also look at fashion practice, which speaks about the CMT spaces, the moving from CADs through to production. They also look at textiles so they can understand the supply chain and the costing within it. They also look at supply chain from second to third year, in which they discuss the whole fashion value chain and the impact their business decisions would make on the industry. And then we've got our NQF8, the first postgraduate qualification that we offer. This is at 8. In here, they've got your very traditional, so at an honors level, it's a very academic qualification. It triggers your critical thinking to look at certain problems we face within the fashion industry. They would do their research dissertation, which is obviously the little thesis that they create at the end, looking at a real world problem within fashion. Then they've got fashion cultural studies, in which they learn how to decode and analyze fashion trends on the runway. We look at fashion business studies in which they solve business-related fashion problems. And then the last one is design thinking for problem solving. So this is quite a nice module. Here they usually work with designing for purpose. So this year they're looking at working with an international company for the development of stoma bags. We worked with the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital in which they developed scrubs for doctors working with children to make it more friendly. Also with clothing to speak to children on the autism spectrum disorder, where they've got little fidgety components on their clothes to help them concentrate or to help them calm themselves. So very much looking more at designing for a purpose within the space of social responsibility. So those are basically our programs. The big focus for us is to ensure that everything is industry relevant. When we say act local and think global, that's very much where we find ourselves. Obviously, and forgive me, I'm going to use an example that I'm not 100% familiar with, but in the idea of a sports arena, we've seen when we compete internationally, either with rugby or soccer, there is this great feeling within the nation of pride when we achieve something. And the same goes for your more creative spaces. It's great to be recognized locally, but to be celebrated on a global scale gives us much more of an edge. It's important for us to also take the South African or the African story to these fashion places that have taken notice of us for the first time, I think, in a while. And it's very important to keep on carrying that message through. So these are just a few of our partners that we work with. We work both locally and globally. These are people that come, they endorse assessments, they speak to our students, they create work-related simulations to make sure that when these students actually leave, they're employable and there's somebody that your companies would like to employ because they've got a well-rounded set of knowledge, but also skills. And more importantly, we're targeting the being. They need to feel and become the absolute fashion practitioner. These are some of our alumni quotes. I don't want to linger on them, but we do have some great alumni that's there in the world. These are just 3 of them. There's a lot more. We've got Jacques Bum from the Bum Collective. We've got Tebe Magugu, and we've got David Tlale, which I think you're all familiar with, all coming through the ranks of our school. And these are people that embody the being. They understand it. They've got creative voices, and they also find themselves really being the faces of what South African industry is like. I'm going to end off just to give you a nice overview of what actually our school does with a sneak peek at our 2023 fashion show, just so that you can see the different programs coming together in the celebration of creativity and how much talent we've got locally. And even at the fashion show, we spoke and we said that these students, we've got so much talent. The idea that you can buy something online cheaper is sometimes taking away from a great talent that waits to be unearthed and to be celebrated locally. And I think when you look at this video, you will get the idea that the full ecosystem of fashion is housed by our school. And I think for future practitioners, future businesses, it's a real ground for finding talent and for promoting talent. So for us at School of Fashion, it's very much important to actually proclaim buying local and to be a proudly South African member, because that's how we create jobs for them. That's how we secure the economy and how we create more of the cycle where we've got people that actually feel that sense of pride and belonging within the local space. So please enjoy the video with me.
catwalk. Put your stuff on the catwalk. Do your thing. Do your thing. Make it look good on the catwalk. Put your stuff on the catwalk. Do your thing. Do your thing. Make it look good on the catwalk. Let them be feeling my guns. Make it look good. I don't need no song. They like this attack. Let people know quiet. I'm calm. Got everybody bringing the alarm. I'm CK, I'm a boxer, you get me now. To be haunting me, see when I pass on a real OG, never see him a
Marina, sorry, the video is not of very good quality, but I don't know if it's because of connectivity issues.
I don't know. I think
Perhaps
Stefan just texted me to say that the sound's also not playing.
yes, I don't know. It could be a bandwidth issue. Sorry about that.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. I'm going to stop it now because without the sound, there's also actually no point in continuing with it. So I will conclude here and I will share the link for anybody who's interested in the chat.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you, Marina. That was an excellent presentation. Please share the link in the chat so people can go watch that. We have a Q&A section at the end, but I just thought this is a short question. Murakane asks, do students have to be only grade 12? Is there an age limit?
Sorry. There is an age limit for the formal qualifications in terms that you need to complete your national senior certificate. So that is for your higher certificate all the way up, but we do also accept recognition of prior learning. So if you've got a good record, we can allow you in. But then our short learning programs, they don't have an age limit. So if you are interested in fashion and you don't have the age at your side or the skills or the portfolio, you can enroll for our short learning programs, which is the design studio, makeup. There's quite a few of them that's also available on the website, and there's no age limit for that.
Excellent, Murakane. We'll share details with the audience as well if they are interested. I do believe that Pretoria School of Fashion really does represent the best of the 2030 master plan in that it thinks globally but acts locally, it collaborates with local retailers and actually creates designers. And if we can connect these designers to CMTs, I think the potential for our industry is absolutely amazing. And we can become an unstoppable global fashion force. Thank you for that, Marina. And with that, I'd like to say that we are approximately halfway with our webinar. I want to thank you, audience members, for participating and for watching all of our presenters. Without wasting any further time, I will introduce to you our next speaker. So I'd like to introduce you Sarah Doyle, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Romatex. Romatex is one of the leading textile manufacturers in South Africa. Sarah has been the CEO of Romatex for 4 years. Romatex currently employs around 270 people, 142 of which are women. That's great for empowerment. The Chief Executive Officer, Sarah Doyle, has worked at the company for 24 years and has helped grow the Romatex into one of South Africa's largest producers of stitch-bonded, non-woven materials and homeware. Sarah's journey to the top of Romatex is a testament to her abilities as a decision maker. Romatex is a subsidiary for Deneb Investment Limited, and her promotion to CEO was completed by Deneb. This obviously credits for the quality of leadership and management she brings to the role, as well as her expertise in these industries. So we can talk about the 2030 master plan and all the exciting initiatives, but I think we would also like to hear from businesses. What are some of the challenges that businesses experience? So with that said, Sarah will talk to us about how the economy has influenced the day-to-day challenges in the textile sector. Thank you, Sarah. Please take the stage.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to set up my PowerPoint presentation and then I can take you through it. So I'm just going to share the screen. Right. Can everybody see that and hear me clearly?
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. So as you mentioned, and thank you for the intro, I am the CEO. I think that's quite unusual being a female, but I have worked at the company. Now I'm in my 26th year, and really have just worked my way through the different areas of the business to where I am now. So I'm going to just start and give you a little bit of background about Romatex, one of the largest textile manufacturers in South Africa. And our head office is situated in Cape Town in Elsie's River. It's a highly mechanized manufacturing plant, certainly on the non-woven side of the business. I'm pleased to announce that our staff complement has now increased. We sit on 282 employees, of which 150 are women. And I am rather passionate about women in the workplace. I find them to be incredibly strong with attention to detail. So yeah, the more women we can get into the industry, the better. If we look at Romatex, we can divide it up into two areas in terms of our manufacturing capabilities. We have a home textile division, as well as the stitch bond side of it. So those really are the two silos that make up Romatex. So if we look at home textiles, I'm talking in the main what we call white goods. So it's duvet inners, pillows, mattress protectors, and bed linen. In the main, we supply into the local retail market and right across the board. So starting with PEP, right up to a Woolworths. Obviously, each company and each retailer that we work with have their own specifications. We work very closely together to find product that fits into their market segment. And then we also work in the hospitality industry, which at the moment is going through quite a boom, which is very good news for us, certainly in Cape Town. So we are a big supplier into that sector, as well as direct. So we have our own online store. We are on Takealot, where we just have a core group of product that we supply directly to the customer, as well as a factory shop on site where people, that has been going for over 25 years. So well worth the visit. And then we look at stitch bond, as I mentioned, the other area of our business, which really is the manufacturing of non-woven fabric. And we produce millions of meters of non-woven fabric. And a lot of it comes from recycled plastic bottles. So it ticks all the boxes there. And I suppose the easiest way to explain to you what it is, if you go to Woolworths, for example, and you will see the black shopper bag, that material is a stitch bond fabric. So we supply a lot into the retail market in the shopper bag sector, the likes of Food Lovers market, and a lot of smaller, more independent retail stores. as well as into the industrial industry. So, for example, the stitch bond fabric is used for waterproofing, it's used in the footwear industry, it's used in the building industry. So there are a whole lot of different areas where stitch bond is applicable. So the topic I'm going to be talking about today is how the economy has influenced the day-to-day challenges in the textile sector. And I'm going to try and keep it upbeat as best I can, but I think everyone is well aware of what we're currently dealing with. But just to put it into perspective, I've selected a couple of them and just how we have negotiated our way through these. So the rand volatility, our energy crisis, shipping, and then the SA consumer. So first up, the rand volatility. So unfortunately, we do not have a currency that is stable. It moves all over the place. And for us, it is problematic because what happens is in the retail market, you are working well in advance. So in other words, right now, we are already, and in some cases have, put to bed our program for June to December already. So that makes it incredibly difficult when you're having to work with the currency because you don't know where that currency is going to be. So what we do as a business is we book forward cover. So we lock in the dollars at the time that we are negotiating that price. So therefore we are able to know that that is what we secured our dollars at. Our margin is not going to be affected. Because what happens in retail is that you locked in for a 6-month period in the main. So you've got to make very, very sure that you have got your pricing correct and that you have booked your forward cover, because you're not going to be able to go back to the retailer closer to the time and say, sorry, I made a mistake. So a lot of time is spent on how we do our costings to make sure we're covered. Because of the volume in the business, it is far too risky to speculate. And sometimes you do think, wow, maybe take a chance here. But it's not a policy. I know there are some companies that will take a chance, but certainly for Romatex, we would never do that. The volumes and the turnover are just too big. It could create a real problem. So forward cover is the way to go for us. If we look at energy, well, we've had to install 2 generators. We work with a lot of highly mechanized, certainly on the stitch bond side, machinery, and we have to make 100% sure that those machines do not go down, because what happens in that case is that we get a lot of thread breakages, etc., and it can take up to 6 hours to repair a machine, sometimes the entire day. The cost is just far too great. Obviously, there's been a cost to get the generators, and obviously the diesel spend is huge, but it's something we have to do to cover ourselves, and it's a cost that just hits the bottom line. But there really isn't an alternative when it comes to energy. We have to know, and we have to be clear that we are able to manufacture all, when we need to. We can't have a start and stop situation. The labor, everything just will go out the window, and your costs will become far too great. Shipping, this is a big one at the moment. Okay, right now, I don't know if there are any of you that are importing fabric. Certainly on the home tech side, there are there are none. Very, very few manufacturers of cloth, so most of it is imported, and that would be coming out of the likes of Pakistan, China. And what has happened, and I'll give you an example, we placed shipments that were due to leave on the 5th of December, and they did, and we're still waiting for them, and we are now sitting on the 13th of February. Those were meant to have been here when we got back from our annual leave, which I'm sure you can understand can cause tremendous challenges for us. If you don't have raw material, you can't manufacture. You can have the best manufacturing plant in the world, but if you don't have the raw material to work with, you've got a problem. And then specifically on the Cape Town port, what we are finding is that a lot of shipments are actually bypassing Cape Town port. And so that is just adding further time onto the shipment. So what we've had to do is we have to work with a much longer lead time. So normally, you would place an order, it would be manufactured in a month, ship in a month, that's what you would work with. We're now having to look at much longer lead times. We're having to spend a lot of time sitting with our planning. Sometimes I feel like an air traffic controller, honestly, trying to get these shipments in. And then the other negative that would have, obviously, is that you have a higher stock holding than what you would want to have in the business, but and that comes at a cost. But you need the raw material, so it is a big challenge, and it is a concern. It's a big concern at the moment. We're not hearing any I'm not getting any messages saying to me, okay, we've got another 2-3 weeks and then this is over. It just seems to be dragging on, and that is problematic. You would have seen it in some stores now when you're going in those stores, certainly on what we call the hards. So all your crockery plates, everything, a lot of that coming out of China, you'll see empty shelves because the stock is just not coming in on time. And we work very, very closely with retail, and everything has a season. So right now for us, we are starting to build for winter, believe it or not. As Jimmy said earlier, 39 degrees in Paarl yesterday, you wouldn't think it. But we are building up, and there's a shortage of raw material. And then the last one is the poor South African consumer. And I think we're all in the same boat there. It doesn't matter. It's all relative. We are operating in a shrinking economy, the interest rates, the cost of living. So it's all there. And I think people are really, really turning their money over and taking a lot more time deciding on what they are going to be buying and when they're going to be buying it. And certainly, if I look at the retail sector of the South African market, you have got challenges there. There are a lot of retailers that are sitting in an overstocked situation. And if that is the case, what happens, it just flows back down. So, that means that if the retailer's got too much stock, that means the manufacturer must stop producing, and so it goes down. And then the supplier to the manufacturer, they mustn't send the goods. And it really is a knock-on effect that takes place. So how do we go forward here? What do we have to do? And this is, as I say, it's my personal view. And I think the first one is that the issues aren't new. We didn't wake up today and load shedding has hit and the poor economy. It has been going for quite a while, and we are still all here. So that's a positive. I think one needs to block the negative out. Often we have meetings here, and before we know it, we'll be talking about potholes and crime and all those things, and we actually have to make a point and stop. You can't let the negative take over. You have to be looking, otherwise we wouldn't be in business, I mean, it really is as simple as that. So one needs to be flexible. You have to look at what is happening, how can you work within that space, because change is inevitable, and tomorrow there'll be something else, and next year something else. So I'm going to just take you through how we have a look at it as a business, and what we focus on to keep ourselves all very much on the strategy that we have in place. So these are the 5 key areas that we look at. Revenue growth, which obviously one needs growth. But again, one needs to be careful. You can have revenue growth, but make sure it's at a decent margin. Otherwise, it's really not making sense. Margin growth, this is very important, because if you keep chipping into that margin, you're just going one way, and that's down, unfortunately. Cost cutting, we have spent a huge amount of time on cost cutting, and what has been very interesting for me is that, and I'll use our company as an example, Romatex has a lot of staff who have worked here for many, many years. And people get into a routine and they do something in a certain way, and then that is the way we do it, and we continue with that. And it actually takes time and focus to sit and say, is there an opportunity for us to cut costs? So we do what we call a lot of cross-costing with suppliers. We spend a lot of time on packaging. Are we using the right packaging? Is there another way of doing it? There's a lot of cost that sits in packaging. And really, in most cases, the customer is buying the product and throwing that packaging away straight away. So a lot of our focus is on cost cutting to improve the margin as well as the revenue growth. Better asset spin. I did just mention previously that I'm going to become a little bit pregnant with fabric shortly, because we need to cover the shipping prices, but it's good stock. So when you hold stock, make sure that it's good stock. So yes, you may have more than you require, but you will get through it. And then the 5th one, a combination of the above. So that's really where we go. We make sure that we are making inroads into all those areas that I've mentioned. And you will certainly see the benefit coming through there. I want to talk about understanding your business, which may sound a bit strange, but really, I think in times like we've been going through, you've really got to identify your core competency. What are you good at? What does the business do exceptionally well? And understand those core competencies and drive them. And by identifying that, it will then show what is the product range that we are going to be offering, and is the product range that we are offering catering, or do we have some product that, well, we've always made that product, so we'll just keep making that product. You really have to work on that product range, and we like to do what we call deep and narrow. So what are your top sellers? What are the ones, what is the customer needing? and that we can track from our retail sales. But keep your range deep and narrow. I think it's important. You cannot be all things to everyone. If you're listening to Jimmy earlier, he's very clear in his mind as to what that business is about. And the same with Romatex. We know what we're good at. We know where we have the ability, and we really focus on those products. So deep and narrow on the product range, but the customer base wide. So one of the challenges that we also look at is your makeup of your customer base. So for example, let's say you are supplying to a retailer, and they make up 80% of your business. That is putting you in a very precarious position, because should that retailer or that customer of yours, for whatever reason, decide to move on, change, 80% of your business is going to disappear, and to replace that is going to take some time. So we work on the wide customer base, so that you have, if one falls, and it will happen, I can tell you that is guaranteed. The world is moving too fast. Change happens all the time. So if one drops, you don't have this real big hole in your business. So know your product and know your customer base. It's important. And in the summary, really, as I said earlier, I didn't want to make this a negative presentation. And as a business, we remain very positive. We have, on those key areas that I spoke about, we have ticked a number of those boxes. So, and we're not in the best of times. So focus on what you can control at the moment. I think that's the main thing for me. Don't get too negative. You need a long-term strategy. And believe it or not, we do 5-year strategies at Romatex. So, we do it every year. And when you first think about it, you go, wow, I don't know what's happening in 5 weeks, never mind 5 years. But it makes you sit and really think about, where is this business going? What are we wanting to achieve? And then it aligns everybody with that same strategy. So you've got to have a long-term strategy in place. Because my role as the CEO is to ensure that when I leave Romatex, I leave it with a sustainable future. That is paramount to me. It's not about the now. It's all the people that are working in the factory. They have to have a long-term sustainable future. So as a management team, we spent a huge amount of time on that sustainable future, be it in new product, new customer. How are we going to move Romatex forward and grow? And so a lot of my time is spent in that area. So thank you very much. I hope it wasn't too depressing. But yeah, change is inevitable, and we've just got to work our way through it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Sarah. I don't think it was too depressing from my side. I think it's a very realistic overview of the challenges that, like you said, many businesses, especially in these fields, are perceiving and have to experience. And I think your sort of expertise and your experience really shines a guiding light on how leaders should react and how business managers and business leaders can prepare for the future. So I just want to say thank you for that presentation. Next up, we are going to welcome Dumisani Mahlangu. So Dumisani Mahlangu is the founder and managing director of Chepa Streetwear. We are familiar with Dumisani. I mean, at Starting School of Fashion, Chepa and Starting School of Fashion has had collaborations before, and I know that Dumisani is really a good friend of Proudly SA and Starting School of Fashion, so I'd like to welcome him. Dumisani is the founder and managing director of Chepa Streetwear with an extensive experience in government communications, FMCG, and the insurance sectors. Dumisani's core skills are in sales, digital marketing, and business development. Dumisani holds a BCom degree in economics, a wealth management qualification, and he has completed several leadership courses. Dumi is self-taught in UX development, digital marketing, and graphic design. Dumisani currently leads a collective of 20 driven individuals who are dedicated to seeing the Chepa brand grow and be a formidable, unique fashion house that is innovative, contemporary, quality-driven, and customer-centric. There's that term again, customer-centric. I think that's key for our industries in South Africa. Dumisani, thank you so much. He is going to give an overview and give some advice and insights into entrepreneurship in the clothing sector of South Africa. Dumisani, with no further ado, I hand the stage over to you.
Thank you so much, Stefan. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on the webinar. Just want to thank you and everyone for attending. So I am the founder of Chepa, but soon we will be rebranding the whole entity. So I'd just like to start off just to share a bit about our company. It's been a while since we've spoken to the Proudly SA family, and just want to also share some of our successes and give some insight into our entrepreneurship journey. So we're a clothing manufacturer and retailer. We're a Proudly SA member. Our business has two distinct divisions, which is our retail brand that sells online and the physical space. And we also have a corporate apparel division, which is also a CMT. This particularly focuses on unique high-value apparel solutions to corporates as well as brands. Our manufacturing capacity has increased to 3,000 units per month. We are green focused, which means we've pivoted our strategy to play an important role in the circular economy. And most of our machines basically use energy savers. And we're also in the process of installing a solar solution to ensure that operations continue when we have load shedding. And we're also able to feed energy back into the grid. Our materials and off-carts are repurposed for smaller products so we can limit wastage and landfills. In essence, our brand is an Afrocentric brand, and we're a contemporary African print brand. And we want to basically normalize and ensure that we provide our customers with high-value, unique products. Now, how we do this is that we pay a lot of attention to detail. And I must say, this is something that has resonated with me for so many years. And it's also a theme that has been carried on in the webinar, because I've learned so much from all the speakers who have spoken before. How important is it that the CTFL industry and sector is supported, is funded, and it keeps operating is not questionable. The CTFL industry is a need. It's like food, clothing, and shelter. The second is clothing, and everybody needs clothing. In times of war, in times of famine, hospitals, moms, babies, that is the first thing or the second thing after food. We've had great fortune to be working with the Proudly SA team, being able to leverage off incentives as well as being able to leverage on key opportunities. So being part of the PSA ecosystem allows us to access opportunities we would not have otherwise have accessed. Our entrepreneurship story is 6 years in the making. Our business is a very small business. We're still growing, and we've had many challenges. Like any other business, there are challenges, and being in the fashion industry is very challenging. But it's all worth it when you have a keen interest and passion. You're going to have issues with funding. You're going to have issues with machinery. You're going to have issues with staff. Leadership requires one to think outside the box, and it requires the leader to have the tenacity, the compassion, and the patience to be able to see things through. Innovation and a great team will assist in ensuring that the business grows and it's well capacitated. And patience is a very strong virtue and a characteristic in any business. One explores. So that is a tact and quality that needs to be applied. And because the fashion industry is such a creative industry, it's always changing. And this requires one to always be on their toes. So we try a lot to explore different designs, cuts, fits, and we do a lot of product development because we try and test different fabrics. Like now, we have started printing some of our own fabrics, but this also increases cost. So as a small business, what do? You then need to look at buying machinery, because in the long run, you cannot obviously always outsource unless if there is a business case to support the outsourcing. But in my instance, because I like having control of the supply chain and having control of our means of production, because I'm able to offer customers quicker turnaround times as well as clients quicker turnaround times, and we're able to inspect our quality and improve on quality. Therefore, for us, it makes sense to invest in our own machinery so that we can ensure that we deliver on our promises. But for other entrepreneurs, this might not be the case. So it depends on the type of business that you're in, especially within the fashion industry. It's very important to keep abreast with the change in the fashion industry. So we also use a forecasting software, WGSN, that we've just started using this year in particular. And we hope that this particular software will help us to be able to focus and forecast upcoming trends so that we can be able to produce products that our customers would like. We work a lot with Stadio. We work a lot with Proudly SA. We work a lot with other fashion houses as well as educational institutions, because it's very important for us to leverage on knowledge. I'm not a designer, never went to fashion school, but my team are well equipped and they're very smart people. And my mentor once said to me that if you want to build a great business, you need to hire people who are smarter than you, people who are more experienced in certain things that you're not, because you can't know everything as an entrepreneur. So that's my key focus in the business, to get the right skill. The right skill allows you to be able to be ahead of the curve, because then you're able to produce products that you would not have otherwise produced if you were doing it alone. So through these partnerships, we just did an internship with one student last year. And this year we brought her formally into the business, and she's now a product developer. And we try and bring in students. And when we see that there is a promise in an individual, we develop that individual. Also, as an entrepreneur, you need to be on the lookout for opportunities, as well as enterprise development programs and supplier development programs. This will help a lot in terms of capacitating your needs. And some corporates would come in and give a helping hand, and they'll assist with machinery. They will assist with educational packages to upskill your staff. So, in a nutshell, it's a lifelong journey being an entrepreneur, because you're always going to be learning. And just like today, I've learned a lot, and I hope to be learning even more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dumisani. I really do appreciate your journey. I think it's a journey of inspiration. I think what I've seen from you and your team is absolute commitment. And I really do think you represent the best of the South African clothing, retail, and fashion industries. With that, I'd like to actually say that this is time for our last presenter. I want to thank all our audience members for watching till the end. Please remember to stay tuned until the end, where we'll have a 15-minute live Q&A session. But with that, I'd like to introduce our final speaker. So we've had people from industry, we've had people from higher education, the higher education sector. Eustace from Proudly SA actually did an introduction for us. But now it's my honor to introduce to you someone from the public sector who actually works for the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. This is Dr. Jaiwant Erkeri, who is the Director of Leather and Footwear for the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Dr. Jaiwant is currently serving in the South African Civil Services as Director for Textile Clothing, Footwear and Leather sectors. Dr. Jaiwant's career has spanned over 38 years, with 26 years work with the textile and clothing manufacturing industry and 12 years in the South African Public Service as a Senior Manager, SMS, at the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, also known as the DTIC. Thank you, Dr. Jaiwant. His topic will be the DTIC policy levels and incentive programs in the CTFL sector. So this is largely about how public sector can empower industries and entrepreneurs in these clothing and retail sectors. Thank you so much, Dr. Jaiwant. I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen. I think while I wait for my presentation to be put on screen, I will start by saying thanks to all previous speakers. They raise very important issues. And then I think the part that I will be doing today is maybe give a glimpse of what this sector constitute and what does it includes. I think if you can go to the next slide, please. And then we will also discuss about some of our policy lever that support industrialization. Obviously, we still have a sector which comprises about 4 subsectors, employing close to 86,000 jobs, and almost like 1,260 companies which are registered within 3 bargaining council, which has capability to produce more than 60 billion worth of ex-factory value products, and basically of which almost 32 billion is exported out. The remaining goes to the local chain store, which also is highly import intensive. Our local distributed trade currently is highly import intensive. They probably import goods with an ex-factory value of 75 billion rand. However, if you look at our household consumption, surprisingly, almost 60% of our clothing, textile, leather, footwear household consumption is lower income group or poor people, and that's where the majority of the market lies, and that's where the opportunities are for industry to grow and participate. Of course, we have a fiber consumption of almost 96,000 tons. We produce more than 50,000 tons of cotton and export about 28,000 tons of cotton overseas, produce 28,000 tons of yarn, which includes maybe 100% cotton as well as some synthetic brands, where those synthetic fibers are not available in local market. We also have sufficient capacity to produce footwear, as well. We have local hides. So the sectors are agro-allied, supported by an excellent cotton cultivation value chain, as well as the wool, the sheepskin that comes to the footwear sector and leather goods sector. We also produce more than 3 million Nguni hides, which are a byproduct of red meat industry. And on exotic side, particularly if you look at global value chain, we have about 10.5% share in the crocodile skin in the global market, and almost close to 65% share in ostrich skins. And obviously, we have a subsector which is taxidermy industry, wherein we look at your conservation, commercialization. How do we do beneficiation of skins post hunting? And that's a very mature subsector. Next slide, please. Thank you. I think earlier there was discussion about GDP, and obviously you can see we sustainably participated in manufacturing economy. Our GDP participation in manufacturing GDP had remained always more than 4% throughout a long stretch of period from say 2011 to 2018. And similarly, in total GDP, we also have a good share, which used to be about 0.6%. Now it is reduced to 0.5%. Next, please. But if you look at the jobs, they were also sustained for a long period of time. I think let's go to the next slide. Because of various reasons. Reason number one is we had introduced the production incentives, as well as some government support, the procurement support, and so on. The jobs were pretty steady for some time. And then after that, we had challenge of technical recession, followed by pandemic, followed by the social unrest, and challenge of your floods. But recently, you will see the jobs have increased by at least 5,000 in last year, and that's our contribution to economic recovery and reconstruction. Looking at some of
It seems like we're just having problems. Dr. Jaiwat, would you just like to pause for a moment?
sorry, colleague, I just read up.
No problem, you're back.
Probably you lost part of it. My apology. While we were discussing the challenges, one of it was definitely energy inconsistency, followed by various aspects. And then I would like to discuss more about what policy lever that we have put in place in terms of various aspects, such as your access to the finance. We have policy lever number one, which is our growth program, which is an incentive program, followed by market access. We have designated all our sector for 100% public procurement with 100% local content. That stayed up to say 16 January, and then for last 1 year we don't have the public procurement regulation with a bill which is currently sitting at NCOP, passed by already by Parliament. And then the third policy level is master plan. Fourth is developing, implementing policies for improved growth. And fifth is how do we look at innovation and enable technology advances using our cluster program and importing some projects through export council, and also look at various industry projects which are normally driven in combination together with the industry. Next slide, please. Thank you. Next, please. So I think in the interim, within the incentives, provided specific incentive to the emerging challenges, one of which was working capital interest subsidy that was introduced during COVID disruptions. It was 700,000 Rand per entity, and almost 78 companies benefited. Followed by that, we had rapid response fund in support of the rest, where 56 companies were affected, of which 49 companies benefited with 148 million grant. And then after that, we introduced a newly designed revised program in response to the current economic situation. And that was on 12 January. A new program was launched with about 1.8 billion. Next slide, please. And also in the interim, we looked at probably donation of confiscated goods through customs. So coming to the first policy lever, which creates full access to the incentive, we moved away from the past program, which was post-performance. And this new program is pre-performance. It is for investment, creation, as well as how do we stimulate industry with gross domestic capital formation. The previous production incentive are replaced by 3 programs: Program A, Program B, and Program C. And then we have a new template for competitiveness improvement through clusters in the form of Program D. Program A mainly is for existing companies, which has capacity to grow further. Of course, this is conditionality finance. So additionalities are any investor or applicant must have appetite as well as possibility to grow in terms of real output, your unit volumes, as well as your sales growth. That will create import substitution. And with that only, probably there will be additional jobs created and some level of transformation to be also committed to. So program A is mainly for your capital expenditure. We give about 20 million Rand per applicant, of which 50% is grant, 50% is interest-free term loan to be paid in 24 months. That's a maximum capital moratorium. Program B is for your working capital requirement, where possible you have an order book that you can't sustain with your current existing working capital, and you have like letter of intents from the retailer signed off while you need money for working capital for your expansion of the business. So we give 10 million per application, which is interest-free loan for 5 years, the interest being prime minus prime, and then a maximum capital moratorium is 12 months, where possible, if the entity don't have capacity in terms of balance sheet, which is poor in terms of its structure, at time we can look at stabilizing balance sheet by subordinating these loans. And then we created new program called as early stage startup, mainly in the response to your women, youth, as well as people with disability, as well how do we look at SMEs to be having access to the finance, as well as how do we look at BA transformation. And also this is our response to gender-based violence and femicide. How do we reduce gender-based violence in the country? So there are 2 independent platforms there. This maximum amount per entity is 5 million Rand. When you look at early stage startup, the entity should be either producing, buying, selling, or designing at least for 2 years in the value chain. And if the entity is woman-led with minimum 51% share, or it's a youth, or as well as people with disability of any race, they get up to 75% grant, and 25% is an interest-free loan to be paid in 5 years with about 24-month moratorium. But if the B category is not women or youth or people with disability, then they get a reduced dispensation of about 50% grant and 50% interest-free loan for 5 years with 12 months, 24-month moratorium. Program C deals with master plan related digital clusters, as well the continuous improvement industry cluster, wherein we just give support for 2 years with 70% grant, maximum up to 20 million Rand, and the industry has to participate additional 30% in terms of their contribution. Next slide, please. So this is how we performed so far. We have 266 applications to the extent of 2.2 billion in capital demand, of which almost 195 applications are approved, with an approval of 1.6 billion Rand. And we also have 71 application in pipeline demanding additional 627 million. There is bit of deficit, but also for next year, our E&E from National Treasury is 486.2 million. So probably we'll be able to cope up with a shortfall, which is difficult. But this is an annual program. The entities are allowed to apply on an annual basis. Next slide, please. So this program is administered by IDC on our behalf. You will see 140 sites benefited. Some site applied simultaneously for program A and B with a total value of 1.6 billion approved, of which 1.247 already disbursed. And these sites, 140 sites, currently have existing job of 20,000, which is almost 25% of our total jobs of 86,000. And they have committed to create additional 1,870 jobs. Next slide, please. And there is also a description of how many entities are still waiting for further due diligence and basic assessment. Next slide, please. So the next policy lever is market access policy lever, where we had designated all our products for 100% local content under triple FA requirement for public procurement. And that stayed up to 16 July, where the 2022 regulation was annulled. 2017 regulation was removed, replacing it by a new regulation that came on 4th November 2022. That doesn't include a component of local content requirement for some reason. And currently from 16 January, we don't have regulation. And we're trying our best through our guidelines. We're trying to entice the public procurement entity that they must have at least an objective component in their specification that will compel some industry to have local content. But currently, without public procurement legislation, we can't make this criteria subjective to the public procurement. And we benefited out of what we had in past, almost 84.9 billion worth of tenders went through, and they had local content requirement. You will see also textile and clothing appearing there. So the next lever is our master plan. Next slide, please, which was already discussed. And it is in the form of a social compact between the retailer, the manufacturer, the labor organization, as well as, next slide, please, as well as government, in terms of all government entities involved. And since it's a social compact, we received the retailers' commitment to increase local procurement up to 65% with 66 billion, committing that will increase jobs in the manufacturing up to 160,000. Also, then the industry committed in terms of jobs, those job commitment to invest in technology, management, operator skills, and also build a proper ecosystem. And then government is committed to stem illegal import, also clamp down illegal manufacturing, extend our incentive programs that we have already done, and also look at other policy lever in terms of the supply side, measure what we need in terms of trade remedies and so on. And then next arrangement. And then they're also leading buy local campaign in partnership with Proudly SA. And independently, they're looking at conveying message to the people that there are a lot of goods which are illegally traded in the country, and they're driving that campaign. In terms of the master plan governance, this is a structure we have in place. We have executive oversight committee led by minister, and then we have town halls, which is led by industry. We have master plan task team. We meet every weekly basis in terms of real-time engagement, and there are 7 task team which perpetually work on various aspects of master plan that we want to deliver up to 2030. Next slide, please. So the 4th policy lever is more in terms of implementing policies for improved growth. And there are multiple policy layers. We have a task team with SARS and custom. We have been communicating with the National Prosecuting Authority. We added a number of lines to the Chapter 64 in tariff book to reduce misclassification under declaration. We stopped importation of second-hand footwear as donated footwear through ITAC. We developed a new guidelines for labeling together with National Consumer Commission. And then there is ITAC that has provided woven fabric repair in support of master plan. And there are additional 50 subheadings introduced for home textile in the rebate book. Also, ITEC is looking at rebate provisions such as second-hand clothing and overcoats, which are currently rebated. And then we're looking at minister to approve instruction to ITEC to investigate how can we improve minimum specific duty on footwear from 5 Rand per pair up to 20 Rand. And our current challenge is the existing grid, which is online trade, which has shown a huge surge. And we're looking at various policy issues such as bona fide solicited gifts, de minimis principle, as well as bulk clearance. We had a number of projects rolled down with ILO in partnership that's been funded by ILO through their donor funds. And the first project got market system analysis. In leather and footwear, we now currently rolling down a project which is to map illicit trade footwear and leather good that has surely impact on manufacturing job, SMEs and investment. Also through industrial policy support fund, we have about 3 projects rolled down: a national strategy for taxidermy industry, 4th industrial revolution mapping and assessment in footwear and leather industry. And also we completed development of national strategy for synthetic footwear because we currently are in cost of living crisis. And in terms of greening industry, we have a number of projects through National Green Production Center, UNIDO, Intex. They also rolled down RACP assessment in leather and footwear industry through a program that was launched in 9th October. And then we're looking at circular economy using confiscated goods, confiscated by custom through National Green Production Center. Next slide, please.
Dr. Kire, sorry to interrupt you at this moment. Thank you for all this
I just got 2
detail.
more slides.
Okay, thank you. So if you could just wrap up and then...
I just got 2 more slides left.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's the next slide for our 5th policy lever in creating innovation and the value chain strategies. You will see already funded 3 cluster for master plan, TFG cluster, Mr. Price cluster, master cluster. We will be establishing number of continuous improvement cluster. We will be establishing a footwear cluster for exports, and then we determine to develop an export program for clothing industry. We do normally trend analysis on an annual basis through our Arcerteria school in Italy. Also, we have back to school program led by the Proudly SA in partnership with SAFLEC. And then we also completed Saku leather footwear product as well as chain development initiative. And then we propose national strategy for stabilizing general good leather good industry in this sector. Next slide, please. Chair, this is my last slide. And in this, we will be discussing what the current challenges will be that will keep us busy for next 5 years. We are in cost of living crisis. The industry, there is squeeze on industry profits and the cost. Now the consumer need more affordable product, and we need to offer price leadership to the market. Consumers will cut back on non-essential fashion spends. So we need to be more competitive, having more competitive advantage in the value chain. Consumer will demand definitely more durable product, which are affordable, and then product reliability as well as circular economy, will be very important. We need to prevent loss in the production as well as job losses. Sustainability is also within the top 3 criteria, and then we need to have compelling product which are eco-conscious and innovative. We need transparency in knowing what it takes for product for our consumers. That will be mainly a major driver. And how can we make sure that the products are connected to the consumer and they know about where it is produced. So there'll be combination of new drivers inhibiting fashion trends that we need to look at to make sure that we contain with cost of living crisis for next 5 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ekere. I know there's a lot to go through, and I'm actually really amazed at the level of detail and the level of work your department is doing behind the scenes. I think many people, if they're not in the industry, they don't always understand or are aware of everything that's happening behind the scenes, all these program incentives. I know there's program incentives for manufacturers. I know you're trying to curb the importing of illicit goods and remove illicit goods. So you're doing multifaceted strategic approaches to help these industries. So I just want to thank you for all of that, and thank you for being a guest with us today.
Thank you.
With that being said, I would like to now start the Q&A session. At this moment, if you do have a question, we can take it live. I'm going to start with the questions I have been given, and then I'd also like to introduce Happy Ngiri, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Proudly South Africa. Happy?
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, colleagues. Great to be here. Thank you so much, Stefan.
Thank you so much, Happy. So we had a question from an anonymous attendee. I saw that one of the requirements for registering with Proudly SA is complying with employment acts. And as a startup company, I don't have employees yet. So can I be able to register and be part of Proudly SA?
And the answer to that is that yes, with the greatest of pleasure. We understand that as a startup business, you may not have anybody that is working with you or for you as you start up. It's the same principle where companies would ask a first entrance into the workspace for experience, where they're supposed to get that experience from. So we do accommodate those kind of realities when you come in. All we do that then when it comes to that is that you have your operation in order. You may be the only person building up the company at the time, which is fine. But we just want to make sure that you are aware that when you start bringing people into your space of work, into your business, you are aware that one of the criteria we look out for, where we could, pop in and, visit you at some point as you grow, is that you have to conform to the labor laws of South Africa. But it doesn't hinder you from joining the campaign if you have nobody working for you or with you at the time.
Excellent. Thank you, Happy. That's a good answer.
Thanks.
Then we had one from Albina Molate. As a startup, can one access the database of the ecosystem from you? For example, I've started a women's fashion line. I don't have experience nor the skill to operate, but I do have the vision of my business, which is clear. However, executing is a challenge for me. That is sourcing of material, identifying CMT, and also funding to run the business for it to run and grow. Does one have to be a member to access it? And if you become a member, how and when do you access the database of the ecosystem?
And yes, you generally have access to the database when you join. But however, remember, we are governed by the POPI Act. So we don't give you a list that you can use as you please. However, you will come to us and say, I am a member. I'm struggling in this area specifically. I would like to be introduced to Stadia, for example, or I would like to be introduced to the relevant desk at the DTIC, or I would like to talk to somebody about a funding issue I have, and we can link you up, for example, with the IDC or any of our stakeholders that have financial or non-financial programs. So yes, you do have access to it, but I just want to clarify the fact that you don't get given a list that you can go through and phone each and every person that you may want to be connected with. We facilitate that behind the scenes, and then we link you up with whoever it is that you would like to engage with.
I think that makes perfect sense. You are there as a facilitator between stakeholders and between partners, but it also has to be done in a very responsible manner. So it's not basically a free-for-all. I hope that answered your question, Abina. This is a question I think it's for Jimmy. Where can we find local fabric suppliers for bed linen with different TC? I assume this is thread count. Google hasn't been much of help, and we hope to source and support locally to avoid sites like Alibaba, which ends up becoming more costly for our business. Thank you.
Simple answer, Stefan. I think if they could make contact with us, we can connect them to the home textile manufacturers in our association, as well as people that we source our fabrics from internally. So I don't know if you're able to share my email address, and then we can respond to that.
Yes, I'll just check with the co-host whether we can actually post our emails into the chat. Another member asked for a contact number, but I think emails will suffice for now.
Yeah.
That's excellent. So we'll do that. I hope that answered your question, attendee. Then we had one question from Morakane to Sarah. He or she says, "Hi, Sarah. I noted you do waterproof fabric. Is it good for reusable sanitary pads?" Sarah, did you hear the question?
Sorry, I did, yes. The challenge you have is the fabric is quite coarse. So just, thinking of the end use, I think one may have a problem. So I would say no to that question, unfortunately.
Maybe consider a different route. Thank you, Sarah.
Yes.
Next, I have a question again from Morakane for Dumisani. I know of your organization and keen to join you, but it's LinkedIn that's really challenging. Okay, so basically Morakane just wants to know if he or she can access an email address where they can reach you. What is your preferred method of communication?
They can email us or email me. You say they want to join us as a work opportunity?
They didn't say specifically, but as an opportunity to connect. So obviously to maybe talk business or work with you.
Okay, they can email dumi@chepa.co.za.
Excellent. I see Coast has popped it in the chat. That's wonderful. Okay, I think I've covered everything from this. Do we have any live questions? Let me just quickly see the participants. Okay, so no one's hand is up at this stage. I've got one question from Kate Mota. Hi, my name is Mordecai Ndlovu, Marketing Director for Imadi Pty Limited. A member of the Proudly SA member, and we had a rug business preparing for export readiness. I would like to ask how one can be part of the focus submittees the doctor was talking about. We believe we can add value. So as far as I can see, this is for Dr. Irkede, and this is about how to join the programs. I suppose it's through the Department of Trade and Competition, Industry and Competition. Doctor, could you maybe illuminate this for us?
Sorry, Chair. I think the question was, how do they get into the incentive program?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. These incentives are administered on her behalf by IDC. At IDC, there is a special strategic SBU called as Participation Program, and there is a website available, as well as maybe an email which is ctflgp@idc.co.za, that they can send an email to ctflgp@idc.co.za. Send a request, and somebody from that desk will connect them. Alternatively, they can send an email to myself as well as Miss Elaine Smith, which is also on the floor today in this webinar. So two of us can deal with what their requirements are and then maybe guide them, or maybe get them assisted through IDC, through our manager, Mr. Lucky Tetsa, on this program, who is a manager at IDC.
Excellent. I think that's a lot of information. So I've got the email address in the chat. What we can do perhaps is also just pop the website in there if you have it. Then Michael Shabalala. Michael Shabalala loves the presentations and asks, can we receive all documentary presentations from all speakers? I know we'll be sharing the recording of this webinar on various social media platforms associated with Proudly South African. So watch out for that. In terms of actually requesting the presentations, you would need to direct that request. I'll find out in the meantime where you can direct that request. In the meantime, let's move on to the next question. So Anonymous has said, they haven't directed the question. They've just said, I've struggled to source out good cotton fabrics locally for ladies and kiddies garments. Google is not very helpful. So if there are any of the panel speakers who know of any good cotton fabrics, how to source them, what to look for, maybe there's also, Jimmy, like you said earlier, maybe there's a sort of an organization that collects and coordinates this information. It's open to the panel. Jimmy, you may go ahead.
So I think it's similar to the previous one. Let's deal with the actual specifics that they require. If they forward to us information on email, we can certainly respond and connect them to Textile Federation, for example.
That's it.
They would be able to help in terms of sourcing fabrics locally as well.
Okay, then, chat. So I would recommend that you obviously do some research on the Textile Foundation. And then Jimmy has also popped his email in the chat if you want to contact him, obviously with specifics, because different users obviously require different applications and different materials. So just be specific in what it is that you want to manufacture. Okay, next up we have Monica Siate. Monica would like to know if there are any business mentorship programs or incubators we can get into as small business owners. Monica runs a small fashion business and has no experience in running a business and possibly scaling. So I think I would like to give this to Happy. Happy, are there any sorts of routes that Monica can follow?
Sorry, Stefan, I think Happy has stepped off the call. But for that type of question, they can direct it to me and then I will coordinate it internally.
Excellent. So that the voice you just heard is Sasha, my co-host. So what I'll do is I'll just actually pop her email in the chat, and then you can actually start a conversation with her. Thank you so much, Sasha. Okay, so Maloti Motobi, not a question, but a big thank you to the panelists and organizers for this session. No, thank you, Maloti, for joining. We know your time is valuable, and we hope the session has been valuable to you and that you can take it further in your career. Also, well done to Dumi. Maloti has followed your brand for a while, and well done on the growth of your business. Fantastic. That is excellent. Okay. At this stage, I think we've addressed all of the questions. Let me just quickly refresh here. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly post. Sasha, do you mind posting the email in the chat? Excellent. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. That concludes our webinar for today. I want to give a big thank you to all of you and I hope it's been valuable. I want to give a big thank you to all of our panel members and guest speakers. I think you have fantastic insights into the industry and where we are going, as well as keeping us realistically grounded on what the challenges are for our economy and our industries. And then finally, from Dr. Jawanta Kere about what's actually going on behind the scenes in terms of what the public sector is doing to transform this industry. So with that, I say to you goodbye and have a nice day.
Thank you.